Before we start, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're recording on. For me, that is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
And for me, it's the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation. Well. 3 holes in a ground.
Oh my goodness! That was, it took me like a second and then I got it. I don't know. I'll get back to you. I don't hate it.
No? I think it was pretty good.
Did you just make that up?
No, it's a dad joke. It's been around for centuries. Welcome to our wonderfully
delicious episode.
Yes.
2 girls, 1 pod with Angie and Yvie. And let's not even fuck around with the ridiculous song and dance. Let's just get straight in there.
Yes, straight in there.
I know, I did it with the right. I usually do that hand and then I did this hand and it felt really awkward and my sweat went everywhere. The sweat went everywhere. The sweat went everywhere. Speaking of sweat, you know you can sweat from your hands, you can sweat from your pits, you can sweat from your bits, but I'm going to talk about sweating from your bits. And when I say sweating from your bits, I'm talking about not sweat. I'm talking about wetting from your bits. And I'm talking about masturbation, baby.
How did you go from sweat to masturbation?
I get really sweaty when I masturbate.
Do you?
Sometimes I get so sweaty I have to take the covers off.
Wow.
Yeah.
The covers off what? Off you or off the bed?
No, just flip them off.
Oh, yeah. Flip
going
them
to town.
off. You don't want to have the covers on. Jeez, you get hot under there.
You really do. But
What? Tell me something.
that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about masturbation, but more importantly, I wanted to talk about my good mate Queensland.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
how much I love Queensland. Queensland Health has caused quite the stir after encouraging the population to give yourself a hand and embrace masturbation.
It's such a good slogan.
So we're going to say masturbate, whack off, fap.
I truly believe that there's a lot of problems that could be solved. Talking worldwide, actual dreadful problems that could be solved if we just relieved ourselves.
Fapped more.
Yeah, just relieve yourself, and you can always tell when someone's in a really bad mood. You and I are like that. We're like, do you need to go and have some time with yourself? Because, you're in a bit of a funk. As soon as you do, you're like, oh, God, why didn't I do that earlier?
It's so many benefits. It's mental health. When I can't sleep, sometimes I'll masturbate. If I'm super stressed, I'll masturbate. If I haven't got my period and I'm in a lot of pain, I'll masturbate.
Another reason why I absolutely hate religion is because of what it has done to masturbation and how it has made it a sin. It's such a clearly made up thing that there's a deity watching you while you do it. You shouldn't do it. All sorts of things. It's like, oh, please. It is one of the most natural, amazing things to do, and something that should be talked and explained to a child as soon as you can kind of talk about those kind of things. Say, it's completely fine. I had lunch with a friend the other day, and she was saying how her son saw her vagina. He said, oh, can I have a look? And she said, yeah, of course, you can have a look. And so she showed him, and he went, it looks like it's been cut. And she goes, it does look like it's been cut. And yours looks completely different. So he was like, oh, okay. Went off back to play. That was it. That was the conversation. That is how easy conversations can be. Her partner was mortified.
Really?
Thought that was really the wrong thing to do, that it was somehow a bit sexual, if not bordering on sexual abuse. And I was like, absolutely not. That is not sexual in any way, shape or form. And the fact that we've made that something sexual is really quite worrying.
That's so bizarre.
I've spoken to you about this before, how predators can make the names of your genitals something different or something nice and friendly. So if you ever do repeat that word, your parent or your family won't know what you're talking about. Like the non-predators won't know that that's what you're talking about. So then that's why it's so important to say the words vagina and penis and have children call them their vaginas and
Yeah,
penises.
I remember that. And that's when you started calling me your little rosebud.
Yeah, that was like, I said to you, I remember still being at Westfield, Miranda, in the food court talking about how, someone's saying, oh, that's your little rosebud. Like, we just call it rosebud.
Yeah.
And you using the words rosebud to someone else, they will have no idea that they're talking about
They
someone
won't
touching
know.
your rosebud. When you do explain to children about masturbation and genitalia and things like that, how it's also really important to say to them how it's their private parts, and they're called private parts because you touch them in private. You don't do it in public.
Yeah.
It's private. It's your personal thing, and it's something that you have complete control over. And I think that keeps going on in life. We need to be really open about masturbation, but it is a private thing. It's a really private thing that we do, unless you're consensually doing it with someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And that story that you said before about your friend showing the son seeing that, I find that such a sexist thing as well, because I saw my dad's penis all the time growing up. And it was never sexual. My mum was never like, put your freaking pork sword away, your daughter's around. We would have baths with my dad.
Well, I had baths with my dad and my brother all the time. I can remember the baths, could not tell you what my father's penis looks like, because it was not something that I was ever interested in looking at. It was just a part of his body. It was like, well, that's his elbow. I didn't ever point that out and go, Dad, show me your elbow, unless I wanted to see his elbow. But it was there was no big deal, and we need to stop making such a big deal.
But maybe that comes down to, women shouldn't be showing their parts, but men can. Like, it comes down to that again. It's creepy and weird for a woman to do that, but we should just be okay to see men walk around with their dicks out. Like, I don't get that. That's so messed up. That's a conditioned thing.
His point was, if I did that, people would think that that's predatory. And I was like, yeah, well, you know what? Unfortunately, that's because most predators are men. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's just statistics. But the fact that we're even talking about making something sexual that is something so innocent and educational, it's a worry. I don't blame that person. Her partner's actually young, so he was making the point of how frightened it would be for him to do that, because it could be taken the wrong way.
Yeah.
I completely understand where he's coming from in that sense. But I think that's why it's so incredibly important to talk so openly then about genitals and masturbation. Because if a child talks about genitals and masturbation as a really, really just a general topic, that reduces the chance of that child ever being abused.
Yeah, that's so true. I never learned about masturbation.
Oh, well, you were Catholic. Oh my God, you were told you were going to hell for doing it.
Yeah, my mum would have been like, oh, no, gross. I don't want to talk about that. And it makes you just feel dirty and guilty for not knowing how to freaking... I remember it took me so long to want to touch my own vagina. I was like, oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
Sometimes I masturbate so much I get worried that I have an addiction, and then other times I don't masturbate at all. It kind of also depends on my hormonal and mental state.
Absolutely.
And I don't overly think it. I just surrender to the masturbation.
Absolutely. And I used to masturbate all the time, and then it started to wane off, as I started to my hormones started to change, which is really quite sad. But apparently when the hormones change again, shit comes back in a big way.
You'll be fapping all over the
So
house.
I'll be slipping off chairs and breaking hearts. Put that on a T-shirt.
Slipping off chairs and breaking hearts. That's like your new thing. Everything's something and then breaking hearts. Smoking darts, breaking hearts. Slipping off chairs, breaking hearts.
Oh my God. Cracking farts and breaking hearts.
Yes! Cracking farts and breaking hearts. I love that. So I got a really interesting DM the other day after we were chatting about people kind of, disregarding your when something bad happens and how you always feel guilty because there's somebody else worse off than you. And then I said, oh, well, that's like saying, oh, somebody got a new job. And then you go, oh, there's a better job out there, so let's not celebrate you. So somebody wrote to me and they said that they heard our little spiel on the way. People discredited your inability to go home. We were talking about that due to COVID. She said that she loved yours and Yvie's response, but would also like to say that this is a prime example of toxic positivity. Seeing as this came up, I thought I would mention it as I would love to hear your girls' take on toxic positivity on an episode.
Okay, well, this is really interesting. I've never heard of the term toxic positivity, but it sounds to me like it would be a really good term, like if it is what I'm thinking it is, which means you are constantly being positive when that's not a very healthy thing to be. You need to be negative at times. It's incredibly important to be as negative as it is to be positive.
Well, I think we've often spoke about toxic positivity, but we just didn't know it was called that. Toxic positivity is a belief that no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. It's a good vibes only approach to life, which is so completely unrealistic. And it also makes you think that happiness is a choice. So when you express disappointment or sadness, someone tells you that happiness is a choice, then that suggests that if you're feeling negative emotions, then it's your own fault for not choosing to be happy. But it's like, well, that's not how depression works.
Exactly.
Or anxiety works. You don't choose depression.
Life doesn't work that way. You can try to control your feelings, but your feelings are really valid, and sometimes you feel really happy and sometimes you feel really sad. Sometimes you feel angry, sometimes you feel scared. These are all really valid feelings to have, and to discourage people. I blame Oprah. During the 90s, we went through an entire decade of gratefulness, of positivity, be happy, look on the bright side. Like it was really drummed into us.
And Louise Hay.
Oh my God, all of that. Like all of those books and, things like The Secret. Remember that movie, the documentary, The Secret, where you could attract things by being positive about them, manifesting the good life, instead of saying life can be a bit shit sometimes and that's normal. It's okay. You're never going to have a great day every single day. You're never going to have an absolutely dreadful day every single day. My favourite saying is no feeling is final.
Yes.
Just remember that. Oprah was a big one. She did all the journaling. You got to write 3 things every day that you're grateful for. It's such a massive way of avoiding your feelings.
Yeah, that's so true. And it causes a lot of guilt. And as women, we already carry so much guilt due to lots of things, past conditioning or, gender stereotypes and roles. So then if you feel a certain way, you feel guilty because you should be on and happy for everyone all the time. And the guilt is I've got the worst guilt. I hate the worst guilt that I have to get therapy over because it was conditioned in me to always put others before me, and it was selfish of me
to think of yourself.
Do otherwise. That was my role.
Yeah.
And I should always be positive and look on the bright side. And sometimes I see myself say stuff like, everything happens for a reason, and that makes me feel like, well, no, sometimes really shit things happen and you're okay to feel shit about it. It's very unrealistic to think that you should be happy all the time because that will set you up for big failure.
Massive failure. I remember being a teenager and going through, the hormonal meltdowns and, my mum trying to deal with it. And instead of remembering what it was like to be a teenager, she would say, just look on the bright side. Oh, how about we go to a hospital and visit a cancer ward and see what people with real problems are going through. And I would be in shock. Like it would just silence me and it would make me feel like I'm a really bad person for being upset, and completely invalidating my feelings, like completely invalidating them, that I am not important enough to feel sad about something or upset about something or frightened of something or really happy about something. It's the humility is a great thing to have, but some people will be like, oh, don't get too full of yourself. Australians are very big on that. Like, they hate how Americans are so, they back themselves.
Yeah.
They're just like, I just do. I watched a TikTok. Everything comes back to TikTok with Yvie.
You should get a shirt that says that.
I watched a TikTok. And on the back, it will just have a whole million thing listed of all the different TikToks and I'll
It would be
refer to one of
quite
them.
the list.
Yeah, a girl who is Australian who lived in the States for 3 years, and this is obviously this is her opinion only, but she said, one thing I learned about living in the States is that there are no introverts. There are just extroverts in the States, which is a massive generalization. Obviously, this is just anecdotal.
Yeah, but I get what she means.
But she said it was a culture shock. Like, no one going. She said, when I was at work, I'd start saying things like, "Oh no, I can't do that. No, I'm shit about that," and they'd be like, "Why? Are you? Oh well, don't do it then." Instead of being used to the culture that we live in, when you say you're shit at something, someone goes, oh, don't be stupid, go and do it. She said she learnt, it was a shock for her. Then she learnt that it's okay to back yourself, to say, no, I'm actually really good at that, and put herself forward for things.
You know why? This just came to me. I reckon it's because they've obviously been brought up to, believe big, dream big, America, what is it, City of Angels, Los Angeles. Oh, speaking of which, I've got that on. But Australians are known as battlers.
The little Aussie battler.
Oh, we're Aussie battlers. Oh, you got to battle. You can't ever say you're good at something because you got to battle. And if you're not battling, then you're not Aussie. So we're always putting ourselves down because we're always battling. And we're actually not always battling. You're allowed to be like, wow, I did such a good job and that's not up myself because I've worked hard and this is past the battling stage now and I'm doing quite well.
Yeah, imagine, do you remember being at school and someone would say, oh, don't you love yourself?
Yeah.
It's like, and that's a bad thing because...
Yes.
But that was the worst thing to do, was to be up yourself, love yourself. It was the worst thing.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you fucking up yourself.
Yeah, it was often about girls though, but boys were allowed to be good at everything. But girls were like, oh God, she's so up herself. She thinks she's so pretty. You should think that you're so pretty. This is the problem.
Or that you're really good at something.
Because we always have to be battling. We always have to be trying. Otherwise, you're too good, but you should be too good. Why would you want to be mediocre?
Yeah. Look, it's a cultural thing. It really is. And we need to, toxic positivity needs to get fucked.
Thought about it.
Get fucked. I think that we need to have positivity. We need to have negativity. It's okay to just feel it all, feel all the feelings. Anything in excess is not great. Like, if you're absolutely depressed and just have a negative mindset all the time, it's going to be really, really detrimental on your health. And depression
and
can make you
health.
feel like that. Obviously, we know what that's like. Everyone, I think, suffers from depression in some capacity. But if you wallow in it or you get stuck, that's where therapy is so incredibly important. But it is just as unhealthy to be stuck in this. Oh, she'll be right, mate. Everything's coming up.
Well, it prevents
roses.
growth. Yeah. It prevents growth not just for yourself but for others, because then you're not going to have that empathy to help out a friend or a family member, because you're going to tell them to be okay when they're not okay, and that's okay to not be okay at the end of the day. Okay. It's the end of the day. Well, that's it. I got food in my mouth.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry, everybody.
I'll speak for you. That's us. Done for another week. Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you. And everything you do.
Yeah. Remember
dancing.
to always keep in touch with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you've got any ideas. Slide into our DMs. 2 Girls, 1 Pod. No, Angie and Yvie on Instagrams, Facebooks, Twitter. We're everywhere. We are like swimwear. We are everywhere.
Not in there like swimwear. We're like herpes.
We're everywhere. We're like glitter. You can't get rid of us no matter how much you try. Email us, 2girls1pod at something.
Oh, God. Okay, have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next week. week.